truancy report direct to the school or court. Chapter 2, Adolescence, an invitation to the control battle. If you are a pretty talented parent and have managed to avoid building a control battle-based relationship with your younger children, nice going. Like the rest of us, you probably get into it with your kids from time to time, but if you haven't engaged in a chronic control battle, you're doing great. Yet even if you've done well up until the teen years, adolescence can be and often is a game changer. Let's take a look at what's behind it. Essentially, adolescence is that transitional period of development that bridges childhood to young adulthood. As adolescents, our kids are no longer children, and as you surely have noticed, they're not exactly adults neither. They are learning to become their own persons, increasingly able to function socially, emotionally, and economically independent from their parents. This is truly an amazing time of metamorphosis when our children are opening their wings and learning to fly. The ultimate goal is that you and your child, now a teenager, stay lovingly connected forever. What's important now as our sons and daughters travel through adolescence is to gradually shift our relationship with them from one of strict parental accountability toward one of more relaxed friendship and mentor. Yet there are many factors that keep the crossing of this developmental bridge from progressing smoothly. Some huge physiological changes take place during adolescence to support the behavioral changes required for the transition from childhood to adulthood, and for many of us, it's not a very smooth time. Physiologically and in many ways socially, adolescence begins at age 12 and extends into the early 20s. Full maturation doesn't occur for women until around age 23 and age 24 or 25 for men. But for the purpose of this book, we'll refer to the period from after high school to age 24 as young adulthood and divide adolescence into 3 stages. The 3 stages of adolescence: early adolescence includes 12 to 14-year-olds, middle adolescence, 15-year-olds, and late adolescence, 16 to 18-year-old. To visualize this developmental journey, think of your child as taking a trip over an arched footbridge. As young people leave the land of childhood, they step onto the footbridge. In this early stage, they can't yet see over the curved top of the bridge to the land of adulthood, but they can look to the crest of the bridge and to see the teen years ahead. And they know that's where they're going, up the footbridge to become teenagers themselves. These young adolescents look back with mixed emotion, grieving as they leave their childhood behind and steeling themselves for the journey ahead. Puberty and the physiological changes of adolescence, along with and contributing to the social-emotional transition, are tremendous musculoskeletal, hormonal, and neurological changes as kids' bodies are morphing before their own and their parents' very eyes. Size and weight change, in addition to primary and secondary sexual characteristic and function, are developing. All of this can be quite tough on teens as well as on their parents. Hormonal changes have an enormous effect on mood and attitude, making for ups and downs that can be hard to understand or keep up with. Kids can be happy one minute, despondent or hostile the next. The adolescent brain. Adolescent brains are going through a monumental transformational process, which actually accounts for more behavioral changes than any one other factor. Research over the last 20 years has given us a much more sophisticated understanding of adolescent brain development. Like other organs, the human brain goes through an amazing period of growth until around age 25, with maturity coming sooner for young men, women, and later for young men. But the brain is not simply growing in size, it changes in ways that are unique to the stage of adolescence as it develops the characteristics that prepare teenagers for adulthood. From the womb through pre-puberty and on into adulthood, brains are growing and developing, creating neural connections of all kinds. A major remodeling process of these connections happens during adolescence, enabling a higher level of sophistication. This remodeling process involves a pruning back activity, trimming out underutilized connections, and then laying down extra amounts of myelin, the substance that increases the speed of often used connections. The net effect of this transition is that a person goes from having a brain filled with a lot of varied information in childhood to one of streamlined specialization and integration. Integration allows the many parts and functions of the brain to know what others are doing. The dopamine effect. Unique to adolescent neurodevelopment is a heightened release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that drives reward-seeking behavior. In other words, teenagers may have an increased desire to see out and do things that will make them in the short term feel good. Daniel Siegel, in his book Brainstorm, explained the effect of this increased dopamine release on teen behavior. The first effect is impulsivity. Adolescents simply react to the drive for pleasure before giving any real thought or evaluation to their action. A second effect of increased dopamine release is the tendency of teenagers to minimize the potential downside of a behavior in favor of the upside or perceived gain. Say you were going out town for a few days and you decide to trust your generally responsive 16-year-old daughter to stay at a friend's house. With access to your empty house, your lovely daughter decides to have a small party with 15 or so kids. Version of yourself. Finally, it's important to have a healthy vision of yourself. When our kids start heading over that adolescent footbridge, they sure don't spend a lot of time appreciating us or trying to make us feel good. I've never heard a kid say, "Wow, Dad, that was a fabulous limit you set with me." And I'm willing to bet you haven't heard words to that effect neither. So you've got to take it on faith that your best effort is excellent, even if you aren't at your best 24/7. Our teenagers need us and appreciate us more than we know and more they can easily express. Even if our teens do manage to convey gratitude, their eyes are moving forward and their job is independence, so making us feel good about our parenting is not high on their list. In spite of the fact that you feel pushed away or told you don't get it or somehow feel inadequate, don't believe it. Have a positive vision of your teenager, a positive vision of yourself, and a positive vision of this journey, and your best efforts will take you far. The power of earned privileges. By harnessing the power of earned privileges, parents can put an end to the stress and the futility of trying to change their teen's behavior and put that responsibility back where it belongs, squarely in the hand of their teenager. And when teenagers are in charge of their behavior, it's amazing how well they can do. Let's take a closer look at this critical concept. In family life, where kids are essentially responsible and respectful, when a kid breaks a rule or doesn't manage a responsibility, the parents will give a quote-unquote consequence for the behavior, such as taking something away. This serves the purpose of communicating that a behavior won't be tolerated. The kid gets the message and behaves differently to avoid getting that consequence again. The consequence could do something like being grounded for a weekend, having restricted driving privileges for 2 weeks, or losing a cell phone for a couple of days. This loss gets the message across and the behavior improves. In a control battle-based relationship, however, giving consequence will be maddeningly ineffective. It may change a behavior for a brief period of time, but the problem will soon return in one form or another. A teen may be contrite and to say it won't happen again, but it does. Or the teen may be defiant, invite the consequence, and have an I don't care attitude. Go ahead, ground me forever. I hate my life anyway. Or have you heard this one? That's so stupid. Grounding me isn't going to help. It's just going to make me madder, and then I really won't do what you want. In fact, when there is a parent consequence, and taking something away from the teen will actually drive the existing control battle. So in order to effectively end the control battle and starve the beast, we must examine the characteristic of consequence versus privilege and shift explicitly to the concept of earned privilege. This will allow you to reestablish both accountability and appropriately high standard for your teen. Why earned privileges matter. Let's examine the subtle yet profound distinction between giving a consequence for a transgression and withholding a privilege. When we impose a consequence, it can be interpreted that the activity or item being lost belongs to the teen, and we as parents are taking it away as punishment for wrongdoing. The control battle involved teen will consider that the parent is doing something to me, taking away my freedom, not allowing me to use my phone, not letting me watch TV. These teens can experience themselves as victims of their unreasonable parents who are coming down on them. They will not get the message that they need to take responsibility and change a behavior, and instead the consequence will only drive the control battle. The word privilege, on the other hand, implies that the object or activity in question is of high value and should not be taken for granted. They are not entitlements. Losing or gaining the object or activity is the responsibility of the teenager. What parents want is a change in attitude and behavior. They want their kids to learn and grow. Establishing that privileges are earned allows parents to empower their teens to learn and grow throughout their adolescence. Privileges are based on an essential trust between the teen and the parent, trust that the given object or activity will be managed in positive ways. For instance, the privilege to go out with friend on Friday night is based on trust that the teen will come home on time. The privilege to have a cell phone included the expectation that parental text and call will be answered. The privilege to use a car is premised on it being driven safely and legally and returned in good condition. A lost privilege communicates to the teen that the implied trust has been broken. The condition of the privilege are not being met, and it will require effort to repair the trust and reestablish the condition of the privilege. When the parent is satisfied that the necessary learning has taken place and the teen's attitude and behavior is healthy, the desired privilege can then be reinstated. Because they want their kids to be happy, loving, and supportive, parents will give their kids all kinds of things simply because their kids want them. This often creates an attitude of entitlement. Teens learn that they'll simply be handed whatever they desire: the keys to the car, TV in their room, cell phone, the opportunity to choose how do they spend their time, and more. Many teens will compare themselves to peers who are doing more poorly than they are as justification for why they should be showered with privileges and material objects. It's not like I'm stealing stuff or getting arrested, they may say, and I'm passing all my class. I'm supposed to be having fun. They have the notion that they are entitled to anything they want when they want it. There is nothing in any parenting handbook or any law that says a child is entitled to watch TV, eat out, have dessert, or have a cell phone, computer, or video game. No thing that says the child has the right to go to the movie or to use a car. All these things are privileges, and like all privileges, must be earned and can be revoked. It is absolutely critical that we as parents establish a relationship between what kids are given and how they perform. It's best to teach this concept when our children are young, yet in many cases, we'll still have to reestablish this essential concept in adolescence. Exactly what should we consider privilege? ? Almost everything we give our kids, beyond love and the basics for survival, should be considered privileges that must be earned. This can include computers and internet access, except when being used for schoolwork, access to TV or any electronic entertainment, cell phone, skateboard, bike, surfboard, and the use of car, and permission to go out to socialize. In general, when kids are involved in formal activity that include other people, such as a team sport, school play, or even a teen walk ban, rehearsal prior to a performance, we should not withhold their involvement. We would generally not withdraw privileges such as reading books, drawing or doing art, playing a musical instrument, or doing anything obviously productive. Let's say your teenage son is not managing schoolwork or home responsibilities, is constantly on his smartphone and computer, and is not getting any physical exercise. You might leave going to the gym and riding a bike as intact privileges, but withdraw everything else. A blend family I was working with had 5 kids who the parents could not get to cooperate. They said it was constant bedlam and that trying to get things under control was like herding cats. The parents couldn't think of what privileges they could make conditional on cooperation. When I asked them to describe what the kids did the night before, they reported that they sent out for pizza and the kids watched movies. I didn't even need to respond to this. They had their aha moment. Earned privilege empower a teen when it is made clear to them that the privileges they receive are earned. Teens are empowered to take charge of their own destiny. By managing their responsibility and forming a relationship with their parents that acknowledges accountability, they are able to establish themselves as trustworthy. And with this comes the knowledge that they can earn virtually anything deemed appropriate. When teens and kids of all age earn privileges, they are far more likely to appreciate and safeguard them. More importantly, they will feel the self-respect that comes from accomplishment, a critical component of happiness. And by establishing the relationship between the privilege they receive and how they perform, we are teaching our teens responsibility and accountability, 2 very critical social emotional skills they need for life. Responsibility and accountability, the road to independence. Here is a basic formula that you and your teenager need to know, either implicitly or explicitly. Responsibility plus accountability equals trust. Trust plus age equals privilege. Mastering responsibility and accountability can be thought of as an adolescent road to independence. If our kids are essentially responsible in school, at home, and with their social behavior, we will see this and be inclined to trust them with a broad range of privilege. If they are not responsible, we will see that as well and will not be inclined to bestow privilege. If your teen has not yet read the online chapter for teens only, I encourage you to ask him or her to do so. What I explain to kids in that chapter is that virtually everything they say and do, or don't say and don't do, is noticed by their parents and gets logged as either positive and mature or negative and immature. I ask them to picture a dial on their parents' forehead where the hand of the dial goes counterclockwise when they exhibit a responsibility or a bad attitude, and clockwise when they exhibit mature, responsible behavior and a positive attitude. I call it the parental maturometer. When kids keep the dial on the right, they get maximum privilege, and when it moves left, they lose them. So if they like to hear the word yes when they ask for a privilege, they need to keep the dial on the right.